Right now. Dropping this video because we've had a few changes as regard to severe weather in the next couple of days. We're going to quickly talk about that. I will have a weekend forecast tomorrow, but I'm just going to mainly focus on severe weather right now. So without further ado, let's get into it. So we have our slight risk for today. It's mainly just going to be a line of storms. We're going to briefly go over that. Not too much to really talk about there. There hasn't even been any watches issued. In fact, there was just a mesoscale discussion right here, as highlighted, saying the watch is unlikely to be issued at this time, which is actually good news. But we'll still be watching for severe weather. This could quickly change. I don't expect it to be too eventful over there. You might get a really strong thunderstorm. It may pulse severe for a moment, but it'll quickly die out. I'm more focused on Friday and Saturday in particular. On Friday, we've been up from a marginal risk to a slight risk, and now Saturday we have just gotten a marginal risk issued. So let's take a quick look at Friday real quick, and then we'll take a look at the outlook for Friday and then Saturday, and then we'll kind of get into the details here. So for tomorrow, there is a very small slight risk which encompasses areas like Tulsa, the far southwest corner of Missouri here, and the northwestern corner of northwestern corner of Arkansas. This is where the most severe weather is expected. It's a very small area, but when I looked at the parameters earlier, it was actually pretty impressive. There's a 2% chance of a tornado threat, 5% chance of a wind threat, and 15% chance of hail. And we'll move right along to day 3. And this day looks a little bit more interesting. I do think that there is a chance of a slight risk being issued, especially around this region here. I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty that goes with this right now, because we're not quite within the 72-hour mark. So kind of pushed, we're within the 72-hour mark, but not the 60-hour mark. So there's a little bit of uncertainty with the NAM, and I'm pretty sure there's just uncertainty in general with the Storm Prediction Center right now. It's a very odd system, kind of like the last one, but on a much smaller scale, a lot less impressive. But without further ado, let's get into it. Let's just take a look at the weather for everybody tonight. And we're going to take a quick look over the next 18 hours, what's to be expected. We have unsettled weather in the northeast, pockets of snow showers pretty much encompassing almost every state, from Montana all the way to Washington and Oregon and in between. And then in the Sierras, we're getting plenty of action as well, rain and snow, especially snow in the higher elevations. And then right now we have our ridge that's beginning to redevelop around the southeast. Meanwhile, our Canadian storm, which is bringing snow squalls to the Great Lakes, is going to be pushing off to the east and is going to be bringing some snow squalls after this gaggle of storms moves through. And really, like I said, it's not very impressive. I think any chance of us having anything severe might have already come and gone. You might see some interesting stuff offshore, but we'll move into Friday early to mid Friday morning, and then we'll watch this low pressure here, which is going to be our catalyst for our next storm, our next severe weather potential. So we watch this move forward here, and we're at the end of the model run. So we'll watch that move forward here. We'll move to the NAM next, and we'll kind of get a look at the temperatures first. So the area of interest is right about here. We do get a line of storms that forms to the north around northern Missouri. This could potentially set a boundary for these storms to go off of. I'm not very sure. I'm kind of thinking not, but it's not impossible. But right around this area here looks really interesting. Temperatures are around the mid to upper 70s into the late evening hours, maybe some 60s scattered about, and then we can clearly see what looks to be little cold patches here, which is where the thunderstorms are likely going to be forming. So if we go back a little bit, that's strange. Taking a closer look, like you can almost even see like this little warm bubble here, which is kind of crazy. But this doesn't extend too far to the east. But I think right around here is where things are going to be interesting as far as the weather is concerned. We do have sufficient temperatures. We'll move this along. We're sitting in the mid 60s, even into the overnight and early morning hours on Saturday. And then on Saturday afternoon, this area becomes a point of interest. And right around here, lo and behold, look where we are. Low to mid 70s, pushing towards the upper 70s. Come on, baby. Work with me here. It's almost time to update my computer again, so I do apologize if this thing decides to slow up on me here. There we go. Oh, wait. Hang on a minute. Yeah, she's fighting. And then we make our push towards the 80s. And this is where I'm most concerned about there being severe weather. It's definitely looking like it's going to be a more southern central plains and southern Louisiana, maybe in the Mississippi as well. But we got plenty of warm temperatures, and and you know what, when there's a severe weather threat issued, normally the dew points are pretty high. So I expect dew points to be in tow with this. So we look at this going into the overnight hours. Still remains, so it'll be interesting to see the timing of this that the NAM has right now, and whether we'll be able to nail that down in the next couple of days. We're going to take a look at the dew points. Start with Friday, then go into Saturday. So here we are. We're about 19 hours out. That's where the NAM had left. That's where we lose the NAM, not NAM, but the HRRR. So we go into Friday afternoon, early Friday afternoon, and we can see our dew points beginning to build. And we're reaching our point. We're reaching that point where we're hitting those mid 60s and low 70s around our expected severe weather area here. And I do think that this is more than sufficient enough to really support some strong to severe thunderstorms. So we'll watch this warm moist sector just continue to build Saturday, and look at this around here. This is what I'm kind of alarmed about on Saturday, because when I looked at this earlier today, I was seeing this large section of 70s and 80s. So I'm kind of starting to think that there is a chance that maybe Saturday could be upgraded to a slight risk. It's a little far-fetched for an enhanced risk, but I can't say that it's impossible. So Sunday we start our moist sector. Wow, moist sector starts to taper off a bit here. We'll have to look a little further into that, and I'll kind of go into some slight detail about it in the weekend forecast tomorrow. But in the meantime, we'll go to a different map here. We're going to take a look at the wind shear. We're going to see just what exactly these storms will be working with in the coming days. There we go. Now, might have to say a prayer here, because this is it's always the wind height and temperature maps that I have the most trouble with. But it looks like for right now, it's complying with me, which I'm very happy about. So we do get a little bit of a wind maximum early in the day. We're already looking at north central Oklahoma sitting at about 50, closing in on 60 knots. This moves off to the east, but I do think the storms are going to form late in the evening. And even then, we're still left with an area of about maybe 40 to 45, maybe even 50 knots at some spots. And then later into the late evening hours, there's a small little area where we start to get around, start to make that push towards 50 again. doesn't really sustain itself. And then when we go into Saturday, I don't know why it's not really showing me anything in regards to the low level jet here, but it's just nothing like what it was the day before. So I think that's where a lot of the confusion lies with this. That's really the biggest question that we have here, because this low level jet really just seems to die off the later into the day it gets. So I think that's where a lot of the uncertainty for this storm system lies. It'll be interesting to see what happens over the next few days, because look at this, we're only dealing with a 23 knot jet stream in the late night hours. Normally around the late evening hours is when this low level jet really starts to pick up in intensity. So we move this along, and then we're going to take a look at the Cape and maybe the significant tornado parameter for Friday. I mean, I don't really expect there to be one for Saturday with the low level jet being that weak, if that actually is true. There's a small part of me that has a little bit of trouble believing that, but if that really is the case, that's actually good news. So we'll move to about 17 hours out, and even on early Friday afternoon, we can already see this Cape starting to build. Watch it make its surge up to the north and east, and we're looking at values around 1500, more than sufficient enough for severe thunderstorms and even tornadoes. So right around eastern Oklahoma and north central Oklahoma is going to be a big point of interest. Right around here, we're expecting almost 2200 joules per kilogram, which is more than sufficient enough. Very good numbers for severe weather. We'll even take a look at the sounding real quick around this area. I do think that tornado threat for this as well. And look at the temperature. We're sitting at 82 degrees with a Cape averaging out at about 2200 and a dew point at 66. An impressive lapse rate. So that's notable, but I do think that this mode could be a line of severe thunderstorms just based off what this hordeograph is showing us. It's not a perfect curve. It looks very linear. If you notice, whenever you look for a significant tornado deal, you kind of want to see a curve like how I'm moving my cursor. And there is a curvature, but it's just not, it's nothing like a significant type of tornado event. But it's more than enough to warrant a slight risk. And then with these lapse rates, we can expect some pretty significant hail. Maybe even hail greater than 2 inches. So it'll be interesting to see what the Storm Prediction Center does with this tomorrow. So this is around the late evening hours when this low level jet is really going to pick up. And we watch this Cape kind of almost collapse on itself, which is really weird. But this energy will remain into the late morning hours and into the early afternoon. We do have some Cape left over on Saturday. There's areas where we're hitting about 1,000, close to 1,500, especially right around here. And then we start to get back into the 2,000s around Texas. I think that's going to be the real point of interest here. But I'm just kind of uncertain as to how we're going to get severe weather with a low-level jet as weak as it is right now. I think the next couple of model runs are going to be really telling on what happens next. So we're going to take a look at one more thing, significant tornado parameter, because I am a little bit curious, although I don't really expect high numbers from this. This is nothing like what we had seen earlier this week, and even then, to be honest, it honestly underperformed. So you can only take this stuff with a grain of salt, even down to the last couple of days before the event happens. So we take a look here, and we do get some values. We do get some 2s, maybe a 3 in there somewhere. I did find one. And right around here, I'm also interested. I think right on the Oklahoma Arkansas border, I think there's a chance for maybe a stronger tornado. But either way, no matter the timing, just take these warnings seriously, because you never know. It only takes one tornado to really turn your whole life upside down, and nobody wants that. So we're going to take a look at Saturday real quick. And we do have an area, a small area where we have some twos and maybe an isolated three in there somewhere. Or we could get some tornado where there's a tornado parameter, but I'm just not. I mean, it's just so weird that we're having such a low level jet that seems so unimpressive, yet we're still able to get STP numbers, which is kind of crazy to me. Like I said, the next couple of model runs are going to be really impressive. Or not really impressive, but they're going to be really foretelling as to what we can expect for Saturday. So last thing we're going to look at of what is the reflectivity reflectivity here. This is what the radar could look like over the next couple of days. So we're going to make the we're just going to run through this real quick. I'm actually going to try my luck and see if I can't get this to loop through pretty fast. So we're watching these storms roll through. We're going to stop right here. And these storms look like they push off to the north and east. A lot of these storms here around the border, just as I was saying, is the real point of interest for me. These storms look semi-linear, but I do think there are some points where we'll get some embedded supercells. So we'll get into the overnight here. Very interesting look around this area as well. I do think that's just an MCS, a mesoscale convective system. This is going to drop a lot of heavy rain, maybe some strong winds, maybe a storm that pulses severe in there, but my real point of interest is right here. Look at that. These are isolated, discrete supercells, and these will most likely have a tornado threat associated with them. And the hordeograph even shows it because there's a better curve than what we were seeing earlier. Whenever we see a curve that's going linear, you're kind of leaning more towards a straight line damaging wind threat. When you have this curve like you have here, and you can even see the angle with these two blue lines that are out, these two outlined blue lines, the tighter the angle here, the stronger the wind shear and the greater the probability of a tornado is. But this is also taking a look into the upper levels of the atmosphere. Capes are still very sufficient with this storm up here. We're still sitting at about 1500 joules per kilogram. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all unfolds here. So we'll watch this all move off to the north and east and probably cause problems for the southeast on Saturday. And then we watch this secondary MCS form up here. I don't expect this to be severe at all. And there you have it. Look at that. It's just kind of all over the place. No real major instability in the atmosphere. Probably enough to get some claps of thunder out of it. There's no daytime heating, so there's not really a whole lot for this storm to feed off of. So we're just waiting for this to move along here. And then once we get into the early afternoon hours, they have this thing holding together, which is interesting. So that does increase the damaging wind threat. What I'm really interested is for what's going on down here in this area. I think this is a real area of interest. And lo and behold, look at this. We can clearly see what looks like to be some more discrete supercells, and there's our tornado threat. What do you know? This does have a supercell sounding analog, and we do have pretty good lapse rates, especially with the dew points, which is something you look for. It is key. So there is a real tornado threat with this. How high the threat is, I don't know, but especially around southern Arkansas and northern Louisiana is my greatest point of interest. I do think there could be something in Mississippi as well. And there you have it. It's going to be interesting to see how this performs and see how far to the east this pushes as well, because it looks like there's even some significant storms in Alabama. And I didn't see that in the marginal risk area. So I do think that this will be upgraded to a slight risk. And days 4 through 8, by the way, when I looked at it earlier, it's it was all predictability too low. So I do think that there could be severe weather on Sunday. Where that will be, whether that's further off to the east or to the north, that's yet to be seen. We'll know a little bit more about that come Sunday. So we still have a mess of, I think there's going to be definitely a day 4, or I think day 3, the next day 3, which will be tomorrow. They'll have Sunday as a potential severe weather threat, at least a marginal risk. Definitely, if not around here, then a little bit further off to the east. Because you can just kind of see this mess of this messy MCS with a bunch of convection heading off to the east. But the parameters are going to pretty much tell all here. But this is all I got for you guys today. Kind of got through this video better than I have the last few. I'm finally kind of shaking off that trip to South Carolina. It was a pretty crazy trip. A lot was going on. And I didn't get much downtime, really. Not as much as I would have liked. But I'm sorry this turned out to be a 20-minute video, but this is all I got for you guys. You guys stay safe. I'll see you tomorrow. This has been Tyler Metalhead Weatherman. I hope you guys have a good night.